going on, everybody? I'm Harrison Graham.
And I'm Chase Sr.
We launched a brand new show just a couple of weeks ago here at Chat Sports, and it's called Any Given Thursday.
We go live every single Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific. So the video that you're about to watch aired live on that show. Make sure you subscribe and join us on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel.
Let's break down some Boston Celtics here on Any Given Thursday by Chat Sports. Harrison Graham and Chase Sr. rolling along. Training camps are here. So 3 storylines you've cooked up for the Boston Celtics. Take it away.
So the Kemba Walker experiment in Boston didn't work out. At first, it looked as though it was going to work because Kemba Walker looked like the Kemba Walker from Charlotte. But then those knee injuries started to surface in the last 2 years. He just wasn't the same player anymore. So one of the big storylines that I'm looking at for the Celtics going into training camp is who the hell plays point guard? So you signed Marcus Smart to that contract extension. You have Payton Pritchard on the roster as a second-year player, former draft pick out of Oregon, who played very, very well in the NBA Summer League. I more so think that he's a backup in the TJ McConnell type of role. And maybe down the road, Payton Pritchard is going to get paid at some point. And then you sign Dennis Schroder to that one-year deal worth $5.9 million after he had turned down $84 million from the Los Angeles Lakers. Dennis Schroder, the player that he is at that price tag, is a great bargain for Boston. I'm just not sure who is going to play point guard because Marcus Smart has never really been given the keys to the car as a traditional point guard. Payton Pritchard is still somewhat unproven. And Dennis Schroder, I like him more so sometimes off the ball, but better yet, coming off the bench as a replacement point guard and a go-to scorer as a sixth man.
They paid Marcus Smart starting point guard
a lot of money, and Brad Stevens even said, I'd like Marcus Smart to play point guard, and he is the general manager for this franchise. So from that talking point to this question, this is what I want to ask all of you. Who starts at point guard? Predict it for us. Type MS for Marcus Smart, type DS for Dennis Schroder, PP for Payton Pritchard. You can have fun with PP if you want. Get those votes in the comment section down below. Second storyline, Jayson Tatum. Since he came into the league, Harrison, he has gotten progressively better each and every year. And last year, I thought he was great. What was so telling to me was that first round series against the Brooklyn Nets when the roster is depleted. There's no Jaylen Brown. It was obviously a down Celtics team. The Nets were at full strength, and they knew that Jayson Tatum was the only scoring threat on the roster, yet he still dropped a 50-piece.
And won a game by himself.
And won a game by himself.
Crazy.
So can Jayson Tatum take yet another leap and kind of do and play a little bit like Kobe Bryant and show a little bit more aggressiveness on the offensive end of the floor? He certainly has it inside of him. Yeah. I think that he can be a great player. I think maybe you make the argument he's already a top 10 player, but can he take that next step to true superstardom? And then lastly, you have a new coach. Brad Stevens goes from head coach to general manager. Danny Ainge steps down as the president of basketball operations. In comes Ime Udoka as the new head coach for the Boston Celtics franchise. And I really like the hire. He has familiarity with this roster because he coached Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart at the 2019 World Games. Those 3 key components to this year's team really wanted him to become the head coach, and it became pretty apparent early on in that head coaching process that he was going to be the guy, but he's a relative unknown. Now, Ime Udoka the last couple of years has been a candidate for some other jobs. He came up under Greg Popovich. He spent a year with the Philadelphia 76ers under Brett Brown. He was with the Brooklyn Nets last year under Steve Nash, so he has coached superstar players, and he has coached under superstar head coaches. That all translates well, but you have to actually see how it facilitates onto the court. So those are my 3 storylines going into the training camp for the Celtics. Who's going to play point guard? Is it going to be Marcus Smart, Payton Pritchard, Dennis Schroder? And who's going to be that starter? Can Jayson Tatum take that MVP level jump like maybe a Luka Doncic? And what's going to be the impact of Ime Udoka? Cannot wait to see how the Celtics perform this year. ESPN had predicted they finish like 5th, 6th in the Eastern Conference. When you have 2 elite wings like Tatum and like Brown, you have the opportunity to compete in a deep Eastern Conference. I think the Celtics are going to be better than that, and we're going to be here covering them all throughout the season and in the offseason, so make sure you hit that red subscribe button.
NBA training camps are almost here as we roll along on today's show. Chase, basketball is almost back as training camps start next week.
So much of the focus right now across America, really across the world, is on the National Football League as we go into week 3. But NBA training camp tips off next week. NBA preseason is only a couple weeks away, and then the NBA regular season starts in mid-October. We're going back to the normal NBA schedule following this COVID-shortened season and how the coronavirus kind of threw everything out of whack as far as the schedule. But here's some key dates for you that are coming up. Next week on the 27th, that's NBA Media Day for all teams across the association. On the 28th, that's when NBA training camps begin, so practices do begin to be in session. On the 3rd, the NBA preseason is starting, and then on the 19th, NBA regular season gets underway.
Yeah, and you look at that calendar, you're like, holy smokes, didn't the finals just end like a week ago?
It feels
That's
that
what
way.
It feels like, but we've had a draft, we've had a free agency period, and it's a lot of fun, man. I can't wait to get basketball back. Deep fall is the best time of year because you have the NFL, the NBA, playoff baseball, college football, and even hockey for you hockey fans. It's all happening at once. And that's coming up here in about 6 weeks when all those sports will overlap. It's nice to have the normal calendar back with the NBA. Second short offseason in a row that was shorter because of that. But moving forward, we should be back on the normal calendar, and these players should be able to adjust. And I cannot wait for opening night later in October. If you guys are as ready as we are here at Chat Sports, because hey, more NBA season means more videos for you guys. Type me down in the comments. Chase, I'm fired up, man. It's going to be fun.
I'm fired up, and I think actually the ratings might improve for the NBA in the playoffs as well as in the NBA Finals once we get back to that normal schedule for the first time in 2 seasons, because 2 years ago we had the NBA bubble, and then it's kind of weird having the NBA Finals in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
But when you have it earlier on, I think it's a less busy time on the sporting schedule.
Well, I think people are just so comfortable with what they're used to.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago, the finals are in mid-August. It's like, what?
Very weird. When
people
NFL
are ready for
is
football.
ramping up.
Yeah,
exactly.
people are ready for football. So I think the NBA is poised for a big season. I think the playoffs were a ton of fun last year, brings momentum into this year. Should be an absolutely fantastic time. So if you're as fired up as we are, go ahead and type your me. We'll go ahead and talk about odds, MVP, playoff odds as well as we get closer and closer to the season. What do you make of Luka Doncic being the favorite to win MVP this year?
I think the odds makers see what you and I see and what a lot of other people see. I see Luka Doncic this year taking another step, and I honestly think that because of the roster construction in Dallas, he's going to have an opportunity to really carry the offensive load more so than in previous seasons, and he's already had a massive usage rate, but I do see his points per game increasing up to maybe 33 points per game, so I think that's realistic that Luka is going to be able to win his first MVP award, which will really add to his legacy throughout his career. I mean, you compare his first 3 seasons with the first 3 seasons of LeBron James, they have been nearly identical all across the board. And I think Steph Curry, coming off that historic second half of the season last year in which he was just straight up on fire, dropping 30, 40-point games any given night. That's why you see him at 5-1 odds. Giannis, he really solidified himself as one of the greatest players in the history of the NBA with how he played in the NBA Finals.
His resume of 2 MVPs in a Finals and a Finals MVP, he could retire tomorrow and go into the Hall.
So him and Michael Jordan, the only players at this point of their respective careers to win an NBA championship, an NBA MVP, a Finals MVP, and Defensive Player.
Wow.
So that goes to show you the historic proportions in which Giannis is off to in his career. And then if Embiid doesn't get hurt last year
he might
with
have
that
won
knee injury, at 7-1 odds, I kind of like the value there because I thought he would have been the MVP if he didn't get hurt.
Then, of course, LeBron's always in the mix. Kevin Durant's
at
in the mix
12-1 as well.
A lot of guys at plus 1,200. We just gave the king some props there because he's been doing it for a long time. But then you look at NBA title odds. No surprise at the top 3, Chase. Brooklyn, LA, Milwaukee. Then Golden State at plus 1,100. The Jazz at plus 1,400. I think people forget the Jazz were the best regular season team last year.
Yeah.
And if Mike Conley doesn't get banged up in the playoffs, Same with Donovan Mitchell, who's dealing with an ankle issue. Maybe that team wins it all last year.
I thought you made a good point earlier when you said the NBA playoffs last year were really entertaining. They were jam-packed with action. They really were. And I think what's great going into this year, both the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference are so deep, and I think there's going to be so much parity across the league. Yeah. I know that the Nets and Lakers are obvious title favorites, but if they don't win the title next year, I'm not going to be surprised at all. And what you also saw in the playoffs last year is the emergence of some young superstars who were next up behind the LeBrons as well as the Stephs across the league.
Booker.
So going into this year, there is so much momentum, and I love it.
I absolutely cannot wait for the season. It's going to be a lot of fun. Who do you guys think will win it all this upcoming year in the 2021-2022 NBA season? Who's going to be the champs? Get your votes in right now down in the comments section. And while you're at it, subscribe to us here at Chat Sports. You're watching Any Given Thursday. We go live every single Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central Time, 2 o'clock Pacific. So subscribe and join us, youtube.com/chatsportstv. We'll continue to have you guys covered on the NFL, NBA, college football, and everything else in between as well. So go ahead and subscribe.